What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another SLOBCAST. This is SLOBCAST number 2, and today we're going to be talking about the basics of broadcasting. So this is going to be specifically for people that are new to streaming or are interested in becoming broadcasters on Twitch, Mixer, YouTube gaming, and this can also kind of extend to just making YouTube content as well. Before I begin though, I would recommend that if you guys want to learn a little bit about me, who I am as a broadcaster and how I got started and how I became a full-time streamer, then I highly recommend going back and listening to SLOBCAST number 1, where I talk a little bit about that journey. All right, so with that out of the way, let's kind of get started. There is really nowhere online that you will find a cookie cutter solution to becoming a successful Twitch streamer. There's ebooks out there, there's lots of videos, and you're listening to this podcast probably hoping for the answer. And I want to just get it right out of the way that it's different for everybody. Now, I can make suggestions and share my opinions on how broadcasting should be conducted, but this is for my specific style of streaming. And I've listened to a lot of larger streamers, especially when I was trying to learn how to become a bigger broadcaster, and the story was very similar. Like, I don't know how I ended up here. I just love streaming, and this is where I am today. And for the most part, that is true. But subconsciously, there is a lot of steps and a lot of lessons that they've learned along the way that they may not have necessarily picked up on, or at the time of doing their interviews, never really thought to share. And I've been in this industry, especially helping people become YouTubers and partnered streamers for a very long time before I started doing this for a living. So I'm used to taking a look at what's working for somebody's channel or live stream and understanding if there's lessons that can be learned from that. And along my way on Twitch over the years, I have watched broadcasters firsthand make critical mistakes in their broadcast, but turn out just fine. And I've also seen streamers that have done everything right, but unfortunately were unable to grow. So it's important to experiment with different strategies, especially in the early game. Getting started on Twitch and building that community and that foundation is hands down the most difficult part of your journey. It's that first 10 to 50 viewers concurrently that make sure that they show up to your stream every single day. Those are the individuals that are going to help you become successful on Twitch. So it's important to recognize that and engage with your audience on a regular basis to grow that community and get people to stay and actually want to contribute to what you're trying to do on your broadcast. So with that out of the way, let's talk a little bit about how you can actually grow that foundation. So the first thing, you just made your Twitch account, you got your name, whatever it is, you need to find what your game and category will be. And typically for me and other broadcasters, you pick a genre of games because you don't want to just be that guy that only streams one game forever. It's important to recognize that all games will not last forever, but the genre itself will remain. So for example, I only really stream on a regular basis 2 games, DayZ and Escape from Tarkov, but those are both survival shooter games. And I will continue for now and into the future to play the best in survival shooter games, whatever that will be. Whatever is the most popular survival shooter category on Twitch, that's where I'm going to want to be and for creating YouTube videos. And that is going to be very difficult. So it needs to be a game category that you actually like and that you excel at, because there are, in my opinion, 3 different styles of broadcasting. You have gimmick streaming, so you have something very unique and specific that other broadcasters are just not doing. That might be a category or a way that you conduct yourself on broadcast or something unique about your stream. You have professional gamers, so people that are competing at the highest level, competing in esports tournaments, playing in teams and organizations, and just being an overall skillful player to the point where thousands of people want to watch you play the game to learn and become better. And then finally, you just have overall entertaining broadcasters or comedians that play the game and people just love watching them for them and their personality. Now, what works is actually a combination of the 3. You can be a guy with a gimmick that plays the game at a very high level that is also a comedian. or you can be a professional gamer or comedian, or a comedian with a gimmick. You can be a combination, and it's probably better if you're a combination of the three. The better that you are at the game, the more people that are going to want to watch you play the game. And the more knowledge you have, the more people will learn. And the more people learn, the more likely they're going to want to come back and watch your stream. But they also want to have a good time while they're doing that, right? So for me, I consider myself a pretty high-level Escape from Tarkov player in terms of maneuvers and knowledge. But I also like to have a good time and just be completely wacky and do crazy shit. So I throw in that entertainment and comedy style. I don't really have any gimmicks. I'm just me. I don't portray a character. I don't increase my personality at all. I literally sit down in my chair. I turn on the stream. This is who I am, right down to the core. I'm not amplifying anything. You might want to amplify your personality. You might not. That's a decision that you need to make. What kind of broadcaster are you going to be? And that is heavily influenced on the genre and the game category that you choose. So in April, I had an awesome opportunity going to PAX East Boston, and I was invited to do a Twitch meet and greet. Now, I would say like 30% of the people that came to the meet and greet knew who I was as a broadcaster, and I shit you not, like 70% were up-and-coming broadcasters that wanted to learn more about how to become a bigger streamer, which is kind of what inspired me to make this podcast series to begin with. And I would say one of the most recurring themes was the single genre or single game strategy versus variety. And I think a lot of smaller broadcasters or new streamers have a general misconception about variety broadcasting. For those that don't know, variety streaming, you run a broadcast for you, your personality, or your gimmick, and the game can change on a daily basis. You can be playing a different game every single day, and that's highly entertaining if you're the type of person that just wants to play whatever you want and just not be glued into a category. But a lot of big broadcasters are variety streamers, but if you look in their history, they never started as variety streamers. You need to grow that foundation in community before you can make that transition into becoming a variety streamer. Now, that's my opinion. You might disagree with me. You might be a smaller variety streamer that is trying to grow on Twitch, and you might be seeing success. But from my perspective, I have not seen any non-gimmicky variety broadcasters grow past the 30, 50 viewer mark while building up their channel, because you are in a different Twitch category every single day of the week, and nobody knows who you are in each of those categories. And you could possibly be playing really old games that nobody really wants to watch anymore too. So you're not really giving yourself an opportunity to introduce yourself to new viewers. And in each new category that you go to on a daily basis, you are competing with people who specifically play that game day in and day out, who have the knowledge and the skill and the comedic timing for that particular game to run an entertaining stream. And the likeliness of a viewer going to that category who is a part of that game's community and choosing somebody that they've never watched before is very low. So if you're somebody who wants to become a variety streamer, please recognize early on that you're going to need to choose a small number of games and commit to them with a schedule before you can make that transition into becoming a full variety streamer. And that transition, I wouldn't recommend anybody becoming a variety streamer until they're getting at least 300 to 500 concurrent viewers in their game's genre and category. And even somebody at my level where I'm getting 2,000 viewers a stream sometimes, if I do variety games, I lose like 75% of my audience too. So it's difficult to become a variety streamer. Obviously, I think variety gaming and new games and covering all these new titles is one of the most appealing aspects of Twitch for a lot of people, and a reason why someone wants to get involved with that. But I'm telling you, it is the most competitive, and it's the most difficult part of Twitch, and you're gonna have to put in the time and hard work before you can get there. And I just don't think you can get there right away. I don't want to tell you to not do that. I'm just saying you're gonna have a more difficult journey becoming a variety streamer from day one. So choosing one game is best for new broadcasters and committing the vast majority of your time to streaming in that game's category, possibly two. And then after you're done, let's say you stream like 3 to 4 days a week and you put in 5 hours in that game. After 5 hours, if you want to go and play whatever you want, go play whatever you want. As long as you put in that first 5 hours in your game's category and you ran a really good, productive broadcast that pulled in a few new viewers and followers, you're good. Just, I wouldn't do that all the time. It's also difficult to choose exactly what game to play from day one. Now, a lot of people are really big fans of games like Fortnite and PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds, and those are the most competitive categories on Twitch, in my opinion, some of the most competitive. Or if you want to play games like Counter-Strike or Rainbow Six Siege, League of Legends, Dota, those are categories that are well defined and have been around for years that have broadcasters that are there. So if you get your start and you want to go in those categories, then you need to start practicing and become a very skillful and knowledgeable player before people are going to really want to sit down and hang out with you. Or you're going to have a gimmick that no one has ever seen before in that category that will bring people in. So for me, I recommend that if you are going to commit to the genre, find a game that you like that gets anywhere between 500 to 3,000 concurrent viewership on a daily basis on Twitch. That's like the sweet spot. You have popularity, you have people that want to watch that game, but it's not completely oversaturated. Like survival games like DayZ and Escape from Tarkov, those are really good examples. I don't want everyone to jump into those categories, but Tarkov, there's a few big broadcasters, and then you have a couple dozen smaller to medium-sized broadcasters. There's a lot of opportunity there. That's like the perfect example, I think, of a category that you can actually see some growth in. Because if you're getting 50 to 100 viewers concurrently, you're going to be showing up in the second or third row, and that's going to be visible from the moment that somebody clicks on the category rather than being buried and having to scroll down. Choosing your first game category is one of the most important parts to becoming a new broadcaster, in my opinion. So that's why I've spent so much time today talking about it. You really need to sit down and think strategically about where you want to get your start on Twitch. And maybe your current streaming category, you might be somebody listening that's been streaming for 6 to 12 months and have not seen a whole lot of growth. Maybe that's because you're streaming too many games, maybe you're not streaming enough, or maybe the game category that you're streaming in isn't really growing, or it might be oversaturated with broadcasters. But at the end of the day, the most important thing that is above all the suggestions that I've mentioned today is play something that you like. If your favorite game happens to be Fortnite, or it happens to be PlayerUnknown Battlegrounds or Counter-Strike or League of Legends, and you're really good at those games, even though they've been really established, go ahead, rock on, play the game that you want, because that positive attitude is going to shine through to your viewership, even if it's only 5 to 10 viewers a broadcast. There are streamers, I won't mention any names, but they're out there that absolutely hate the game that they're playing, but they feel like they're stuck. But they don't realize that that hateful attitude is coming across to their viewers, and it's really easy to see through. Like somebody that's playing a game and being fake, it's obvious that you don't like what you're doing. And if you don't like what you're doing and you're streaming full time, well, guess what? You no longer like your job. And that's not fun, because one of the reasons to become a full-time streamer is to be your own boss and to be doing a job that you enjoy. All right, so now you've chosen a game that you want to play and you kind of get a better understanding of what kind of streamer you want to be. Now you're going to have a little bit of the basics. Are you going to be using a webcam, not a webcam? Are you going to be using a green screen? What kind of broadcast are you going to be running? What are people going to be seeing and hearing? For me, webcams, I streamed without a webcam for over a year because I was living in a really tiny apartment with another person, and I just couldn't have them on webcam all the time. And I also wasn't quite too sure if I wanted to be a kind of broadcaster that had a webcam or not. There's lots of large streamers that do not use a webcam. Lyric is probably one of the biggest streamers out there, and he doesn't use a webcam and has never used a webcam. And I don't think he has any plans on moving in that direction anytime soon. Because, and in my opinion, audio is more important than video. Having a good microphone is always better than being on webcam. So there is a few larger broadcasters that use headset mics, but the overwhelming majority use condenser microphones, either USB or using an audio mixer or interface. For myself, I got my start using a Blue Yeti USB condenser microphone, and I still think the Blue Yeti is amongst the best budget broadcasting microphone out there. That and the Snowball. You really cannot go wrong with the Yeti. The only thing, if you're going to be going in that direction, is you need to have a good microphone stand and possibly a shock mount. You don't want to be resting something like a condenser microphone on your desk, because every single time you slam your hands down on the keyboard or, hit something on your keyboard, that's going to be picked up. So if you're going to be using a condenser microphone, do not sit it on your desk. Get a stand that either clamps into the desk with a shock mount or one that stands up from the floor. And also getting a pop filter is a good idea. You can get started on Twitch if you're just kind of trying to do a budget broadcast with just a headset mic, but the sooner that you can move towards a condenser microphone, the better, in my opinion. Now, again, let's get back to webcams. I do think it is a good idea to have a webcam. I don't think it's required, but I know for me, it's easier for people to connect to the broadcaster if they can physically see them. You do not need to have a green screen, though. There's a lot of streamers that actually had green screens and are moving away from green screens for a more, comfortable and professional setting. Like, for example, Markstrom TV has an extremely high quality camera and a great atmosphere that's going on in his office. No longer uses a green screen. He's somebody who transitioned from a green screen to a non-screen. For me, I used to not have a green screen on my microphone or on my webcam, and then I moved towards a green screen, and I just noticed a complete difference. Like, I prefer green screen way more than not. But if you're going to be moving in the direction of using a green screen, you need to do it right. You need to have really good lighting, because there is nothing worse, I swear to God, than seeing somebody that has a terrible green screen. It's not chroma keyed correctly, and it just makes the stream look super low budget and unprofessional. So if you don't have the right lighting, and if you don't really know if you can do green screening, or if you have a green screen but it's not chroma keyed correctly and you can see all this green fuzz around you, don't do it. It's better to just have the webcam on and create like a little border around the webcam and just use it that way, in my opinion. It's also important to look at what other broadcasters are doing. How are they setting up their streams? Because you'll also notice that Twitch is very trendy. But right now, green screening is kind of going away, and it is going towards that high quality camera in the studio atmosphere again, which is something that's kind of what it was like on Twitch when it first got started. And back in the day on Justin TV, having really thick text with like all the recent followers, donations, the subs, everything, and having just this crazy, elaborate, colorful overlay, that was the trend. Everybody did that and then slowly moved away from it. So Twitch styles definitely come and go. And, it's up to you whether or not you want to move with the trends. I think it is beneficial to stay on your feet and just keep on making subtle changes if you feel like that you can increase the quality of your broadcast. But for the most part, there's nothing wrong with just having a green screen, webcam, condenser mic. That is very, very basic. Almost everybody does it, and you really can't go wrong with it. But if you're somebody that wants to be unique, then doing the exact same thing as everybody else might not be what you want to do, right? So either way, I think it's a safe move, but you might want to think outside the box. Now, when it comes to streaming, like with your hardware, like if you have a computer with like a newer i7 and a reasonably decent GPU, you should be able to do a single computer setup. So just on your gaming computer, installing open broadcast software, OBS. I'm not going to teach you guys how to use OBS. There's lots of tutorials online, but just using a single PC setup and doing at least a 720p broadcast is ideal. Anything under 720p broadcast, I feel like at this point in time, it's 2018, it's the standard. You should be streaming at least 720p. So make sure that you can make that happen if possible. I know sometimes there can be internet restraints, like you're not able to get the bit rate that is enough to run the broadcast, or maybe your CPU isn't powerful enough to encode a 720p stream. But just know, if you are not streaming at 720p or around that, people are going to notice the lower quality of your broadcast and will most likely choose to watch somebody else who has a better quality, especially if they don't know who you are. If you're going to be using a webcam, there's something that I do need to mention because I find it's really important, and it was a lesson that I've learned. But to start, I'm not the most attractive guy. I get that. I'm a little bit overweight. I could do better. However, even still, every day I make sure that I maintain myself on the stream. Like, I shower, I do my hair, I make sure I'm clean, I'm wearing clean clothes, and you don't really see any mess going on in the background. People will tell you that that doesn't matter, but they are point blank lying to your face to make yourself feel better. I streamed for well over a year, not really giving a shit how I looked on webcam. And that was a mistake, actually. It took me a little while to realize that maintaining yourself and being presentable on webcam is incredibly important. And there's a reason why, like, broadcasters on a professional level make sure that they do that. So if you're somebody that doesn't like to, always be presentable, if you don't like to shower every single day, if you are streaming in a really messy room, then you might want to consider either not streaming with a webcam or changing some of your habits to benefit your broadcast. So you might be making sure that you're showered and cleaned up and wearing clean clothes on the broadcast, and then your bed isn't made and your room is a complete mess. So I would recommend, if you're somebody that if you're messy, like I'm a messy person, I have a green screen. You don't see the mess that's going on behind in my office. Even though my office isn't that bad, it can be messy at times. But even whenever I didn't have a green screen, behind in frame in the webcam was always clean. There was no clutter, because you do have people that are watching that might get triggered at that. Or you might have somebody that's turned off because you're not looking like you're trying. Like, not like you don't have to look at your best, but you don't want to be at your worst every single day you're on webcam. And physically, you don't need to be the most attractive person. Like, we're all born different. Just put a little bit of effort in is all I'm saying. So we talked a little bit about choosing your game and what kind of streaming style, having the basics like your webcam and your microphone. Next is like really picking a time. So some people recommend that you watch your game category and you look for times that work for your schedule that might not be oversaturated in the category. I know that some new broadcasters like to stream in the middle of the night between 12 a.m. and 6 a.m. Because that's whenever there's going to be the least amount of broadcasters online. You're still going to have some people that are interested in watching in that category. Just know you're not going to have as many people that are going to be in there wanting to watch your stream whenever everybody else is asleep. But it might be a good idea for new streamers just to kind of get in there, introduce themselves for a few weeks, and then shift their time slot to something that's a little bit more reasonable after you build a bit of a foundation and a base audience with followers. But you also don't want to kill yourself, because that's a lot of time. You're probably already either going to school or you already have a job, or both. So it's important to make sure you get your hours of sleep, because you don't want to burn yourself out. So more important than that, though, is just finding a time slot that works for your schedule. But I would recommend that you stream at least 5 days a week. Now, you can stream for 3 days, but 5 is better, like Monday through Friday, or you take 2 days off in between. But if you can do 7 days a week, you're going to be growing the fastest, because you're going to be on the platform as much as possible, and people are going to recognize you faster in the category. And you're also going to be working harder than your competitors. That's also really important. People notice whenever you're online more than other people, and they tend to want to watch you more often because you're reliable and you're consistent and you're on time. Not sticking to a schedule or picking a time slot, in my opinion, is the biggest mistake the vast majority of new broadcasters make, because your audience has no idea when you're going to be live. And I get that. Like, it can be extremely difficult if you already work a job, and that especially a job that is like very inconsistent and it is unpredictable. It's hard to actually pick a time slot that works for you. You might have to go Jocko Willink style, which is getting up at like 4:30 in the morning, starting the broadcast, and then working after that. That's actually what I did. That's why I stream in the morning, because I started work in the afternoon and into the evenings. So in the morning, I would stream. And then after work, I would spend time with my friends and family. So it's all balanced. Stream, work, friends, and family. So let's say you're streaming 5 days a week. I would recommend that you stream no less than 3 hours, at best 5 hours. Any more time is bonus, but it's important to not burn yourself out. So it's better to conduct a high energy, high quality 5-hour stream than a low quality, low energy 10 to 12 hour stream. That's obviously, in my opinion. I think other broadcasters will disagree with me here. It is it is known, I'm going to say that, it is known that the more time you can spend on Twitch, the better it's going to benefit your channel. Find what works for you and just don't kill yourself in the process, because you're going to be in this for the long haul. We're talking years here, not days or weeks. And remember, it's important to stay disciplined and consistent. If anything happens if you're not able to make your stream, make sure you have a way of letting your viewers know that you're not going to be available and that you're going to be rescheduling the broadcast. My favorite way of making that happen is Twitter. Twitter is honestly the only social media platform that I currently use. I think the more social media platforms you use, it's actually better. Like, there's nothing wrong with having a Facebook, an Instagram, a Twitter, a Snapchat. The more you do, the more avenues you have to promote yourself, it's going to be beneficial. But I think it's sort of industry standard to have at least a Twitter account. So if you don't have one, make one and let your audience know that it exists by having a panel below your stream. All right, so the last topics we're going to be talking about today, because we're nearly 30 minutes into the podcast, is going to be interacting with your audience and maintaining the vibe. So let's talk a little bit about how you should present yourself to new viewers and whatnot. So first things first, you should have an alert box set up that is not super intrusive, but welcoming to people who actually hit the follow button. So you can set that up on a website called Streamlabs. There's lots of different websites that do it, but Streamlabs is probably the easiest and the most well-known. There's a lot of different banter on which website is the best, but Streamlabs, I'm not paid by them or anything. I'm just saying it's easiest to me. And you can also manage your donation section through Streamlabs too, to receive credit card donations and PayPal donations. And you can keep track of how much you're making through Streamlabs, which is actually really nice for tax season, depending on what country that you live in. So get your Streamlabs alerts up. Just make up whatever alert that you want. Doesn't need to be too clever. Just have at least something for whenever somebody hits the follow button, because that is going to be super critical in the early game. Building that foundation, getting some community members in that want to watch your stream on a regular basis, and getting people to hit that little heart is one of the most important parts whenever you're brand new to the platform. One giant mistake that people make is having a welcome bot. Do not have a welcome bot. If somebody jumps into the chat for the first time, you don't want to be like, "Hey, such and such person has never been in this stream before. Welcome to the broadcast." No, because sometimes people just like to lurk. They don't want to be called out for just sitting and watching your stream and relaxing. Like, not everybody wants to participate in the chat. So do not have a welcome bot. Anybody that has one, in my opinion, is making a massive mistake, and they should turn it off. I don't care who you are on Twitch. It's always a bad idea. And also with that, let people lurk. Do not call out a dead chat. Just ask questions and engage with those that are there. And if no one's really feeling like talking, just act like you have 100 people to 1,000 people watching you at all times. Be entertaining, be interactive, ask questions, and don't stay silent. If you're like, you should try to catch yourself whenever you're broadcasting. Try to continue to talk. And it's difficult to do at first, but the more you practice, the better that you're going to get, because you have to remember that people are going to be constantly jumping in and out of your stream, looking for new potential communities to become a part of. And what they don't want to do is jump into a broadcast and you're just sitting there quiet, playing the game, not really interacting with the chat, not really talking about anything. You haven't said anything for minutes. You're just playing the game. It's a giant misconception, man. Like, Twitch is more than just playing video games. It's about interacting with a community. So, and you need to be the guy that does that. So you need to be the one talking constantly, bringing up topics of discussion, talking about the game, and then the chat will feed off of that. So remember that. catch yourself. If you haven't said a word, and if being dialed in is different. If you're in a really serious PvP interaction at a high level, maybe you're playing an esports game or something like that, the chat gets that. You're focused, you're dialed in. That's part of the entertainment. But if you're just playing some single player game and you're not even communicating, you need to work on that. So just make sure that you try to catch yourself. It might be good if you have a moderator. Maybe you have a moderator that can whisper you and like be like, hey man, you haven't said anything for 3 minutes. Maybe you should start saying something. Maybe you should start a topic of conversation, or maybe you can get your mod to help encourage that topic of discussion. And remember your regulars, man. Try to ask them how they're doing. Welcome them back. Like, hey, man, I seen you in here the other day. How you doing? How's your life? How's things going? How are you enjoying the game? What are your thoughts on this in the game? Get their opinions. Try to be open about that and learn a little bit more about who they are as a person, because every single time they're going to want to jump on Twitch, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, this streamer knows who I am. I can have a good conversation with them. I can sit back, relax, enjoy the broadcast. So remember your regulars. Let people lurk, don't have a welcome bot, and make sure that you have a follow alert set up at the very least. Now, depending on what kind of chat environment you want to run, this one's up to you, but for me, I have very strict chat rules where like I don't let any of that Twitch AIDS toxicity into my chat. I want people to communicate. I want people to talk to each other like human beings. I don't want to see any pseudo-racist bullshit. So that completely gets knocked out. I don't mind the occasional memeing, like in trolling, but it needs to be light and playful and not malicious of any kind. Now, you can get help with programs like Nightbot or Moobot. Nightbot is really popular. Moobot I use just because I've been using it for years, but I actually don't recommend anybody use Moobot because they sort of have this like premium system that limits the amount of commands that you can run. And there's other bots that are free that don't really limit yourself at all. I'm just kind of lazy and I've already set up all my commands with that bot. But Nightbot is really good. Go to. There's also AutoMod. So if you're new to Twitch, it's probably a good idea to have AutoMod enabled. And inevitably, you're going to be targeted by a group of edgelords or trolls from various forums online that are just looking to get some attention and to upset you. Whenever you notice that happening in the chat, and trust me, you will notice, all you have to do is turn on your follow chat, just /follow on, and then it's going to only allow people that have been following for a certain period of time to communicate in the chat. Ban all of them, wait 5 minutes, turn off follow chat immediately when you think they're gone, and then move on with your broadcast. That group will just move on to another channel and try to get a reaction out of them. It's always best whenever you have a group of people that are seeking attention to never give them that attention, because the moment that you do, the moment that you flip off or you curse them down, they're going to stick around for maybe days or weeks or months, and they know they're going to get that reaction from you, so they're going to remember that and come back often. It's always important to just never address them, never give them what they want, turn on the follow chat, move on with your day. Just keep communicating like nothing has ever happened, and eventually you won't get targeted by that group. Now let's talk a little bit about moderation. So building a mod team. Mods are usually your regulars that understand the vibe that you want from the chats and follow the rules and just naturally want to see the community grow. You never really want to give a moderation status to somebody that is constantly asking for it. Those guys never make good moderators. And you'll find that whenever you don't give them mod, guess what? They'll leave your community anyway within weeks. Another thing, there's going to be people that are going to be donating money to you specifically for moderation. I made that mistake once before where I had somebody donate a sizable amount of money. They eventually want a moderator. This was very early on Twitch. I figured they were a regular. Maybe they want to help out the stream. I gave them a mod sword and they would disappear for months on end, occasionally come back with their mod sword and then disappear again for about 3 or 4 months. I removed them from mod and guess what? They complained. They were like, why would you remove me from the moderation status? You weren't even a mod to begin with, right? You didn't even do anything with it. So do not give people mod sword just by donating. Don't give it to people that are just asking for it. Give it to people that are your regulars and dedicated viewers. Now, it's always important to ask them first because Not everybody wants that additional responsibility of have to worrying about banning people in the chat. A lot of the times people just want to hang out, have a good time without that extra bullshit looming over their head. So always ask your regulars before you give them a mod sword, and don't be afraid to tell them like, hey, if you don't want this responsibility, or if you see that somebody has a mod sword but they're not really being active anymore and they're not really enjoying themselves, just politely reach out to them and be like, hey man, it looks like you're not enjoying the stream as much being a moderator. If you want to go back to being just a regular viewer, I'm okay with that, and it's not going to hurt my feelings, because clearly them being a regular in the stream is more valuable to you than a moderator that doesn't want to have the mod sword or doesn't enjoy the stream anymore because you've given them responsibility. It's also important to make sure that your mods are treating your community with respect, because there have been multiple situations I know in my mod team where you've had some like moderators that are just completely insulting people. And that turns into a negative experience, and that viewer doesn't want to go back. So make sure that if you see that happening, you just pull them aside and say, hey, listen, I'd prefer if you didn't insult this person as badly as you did in the chat, or don't play with the food before you eat it. If you see somebody doing something wrong, don't insult them or bully them in the chat. Just remove them from the chat without saying anything. That's always a better option. I can expand on this topic more in another podcast. If you want me to, then let me know in the comment section below, because I am getting a little rambly here, but it is very important. Like, it really is. You might think it's not, but mods can impact having people follow your stream if they just don't have a good attitude, or if they're just being too hateful, or if they're being power hungry and just banning too many people that are just lightly breaking the rules. It does have an impact on the vibe of the chat. And in the early day, having a couple mods that are out of control can actually murder your odds of building a successful chat community. And that transitions perfectly into the last topic of discussion in today's podcast, which is setting the vibe and the tone of your stream. So we talked a little bit about how you interact with your chat and how you should set up a moderation team a little bit, or at least recognizing some warning signs when it comes to building a mod team. I really want to expand more about like what rules and what guidelines you should set for your mod team, and that will be another video. But 1 or 2 mods in the early day is all that you need. Do not overload yourself on the mods. And in my opinion, don't give mod sword to other streamers, because though they want to come to your chat and just hang out and have a good time, don't give them the additional responsibility of having to moderate your chat as well as running their own stream. That's the way I see it. Mods and streamers, in my eyes, should be considered separate. So maintaining the positive atmosphere in your stream is the most important thing, I think, when it comes to just doing your broadcasts on a regular basis. And it was a big lesson for me when I started streaming. Remember that you're a source of entertainment or distraction for someone's day. It's important to maintain a positive attitude during your streams. If you're a negative person or are overly pessimistic, this can be difficult for you to get used to. You don't want to adapt your personality too much, because you also don't want to be considered fake, but you need to catch yourself if you feel you're being too toxic or negative, and quickly think if there's a better way to approach discussing a topic or consider moving on to something else. For me, I just always remind myself that this is just a game. I'm not really much of an aggressive person, but I do tilt from time to time. Or if I start becoming too negative, I quickly try to change the subject or try to get myself out of it by maybe switching game types or just trying to do goofy things in the game to brighten the mood. Being incredibly toxic, hateful, like screaming at people for making the wrong move, or calling somebody constantly a cheater, or basically saying putting a lot of blame on the game for you not succeeding. Those are all negative traits. People don't want to go to a stream and hear you bitch and complain about how the game isn't working for you. Oh, he was lagging. I should have killed that guy. That guy was cheating. He must have been a stream sniper. That's another thing, man. And a mistake that I've made, but slowly corrected myself over the years, is the whole stream sniper thing. And this is really important to maintaining a positive environment. People do not want to hear you bitch and complain about stream snipers. I don't care how bad it is. Like if you're constantly getting stream sniped, like in Tarkov, man, I get stream sniped all the time. And you know what I do? I say nothing. I take the death. I take the punch on the chin. I understand that like if you are encountering stream snipers, know deep down that they most likely cannot kill you one-on-one in the game without having that additional knowledge of where you are on the map at all times. If that element was removed from their strategy, you would most likely kill them every single time. And deep down, those snipers know that. So understand that they're most likely not that great at the game. They're just trying to prove themselves to their friends or their little communities, being like, oh, I killed this streamer, and move on. It's not a big deal. I see far too many streamers fall into the trap of just giving stream snipers too much attention, and that creates a cycle. Whenever you give them the attention, they want to continue to do it more because they see they're having a negative impact on your broadcast and they're killing the vibe. And that's ultimately what they want. They not only want to kill you in the game, they want to disrupt the broadcast. And you're giving that to them whenever you bring it up constantly or start complaining about it. Or if every encounter, especially, I see this is really bad in the Battlegrounds community. Oh, how did he know I was there? Oh, he must have been watching this stream. Like, how did he know I was coming around that corner? Like, that happens so often when I'm watching other streamers. And you need to recognize that. If you can recognize that and maintain a positive attitude, even when you're being stream sniped, you're going to be going places on Twitch because you're going to be creating an environment and a chat environment that people would rather be in than that other person that is constantly being negative if it's not their gimmick. I'm going to be actually name dropping another broadcaster. For example, DrDisrespect. I think a lot of people don't understand that he's playing a character. And I feel ever since the doc has grown in popularity, the negativity surrounding like blaming the game developers or blaming the other player for sniping or being like, watching the stream or cheating, that kind of attitude has increased. But I'm sure if Guy himself was streaming, I don't think he would maintain that attitude. It's the character. I think people miss it. It's the gimmick of the broadcast. It's using negativity and creating entertainment and comedy out of that. And I think people miss that big time, and they think it's okay. They see somebody like the doc bitching and complaining in a hilarious and comedic way, and then they go to their stream and they bitch and complain in a real pessimistic and nasty way. And, that doesn't create a fun atmosphere. People will get turned off by that. And all of this also extends to the company that you keep. If you're playing with other streamers that are super negative all the time or constantly complaining about stream snipers or cheaters or the game being broken in the category that you're playing in, you need to deeply consider discontinuing playing with them because it is not going to build the positive vibe atmosphere that you want from your community. They might be good friends with you and playing games off stream is a blast, but whenever you're playing games off stream in an offline group, like what you guys say or what opinions and attitudes that you hold during that given day, it doesn't have an impact on your success, right? So that's the difference. Maybe you don't play with that person during a stream, you play with them off stream and you still maintain that relationship. All right, well, I think it's almost time to wrap this one up for the night, but let's just kind of do a quick recap. We started off by talking about what game and category you should stream in and what kind of streamer you should possibly be based on your own personal choices. You can be a gimmick streamer, professional gamer, entertainment, comedy, or a mixture of the three. We talked about having some of the basics like a webcam and a good microphone and the differences between having a webcam and not a webcam, as well as a green screen versus a non-green screen. We also talked about how you should present yourself on webcam if you choose to move in that direction to look as like a professional broadcaster. We talked about picking a time slot and staying consistent and disciplined in that time slot to help maintain positive growth for your stream, while also picking a game category and a time slot that works for your schedule that may not be oversaturated. We then moved on to discuss how you interact with your viewers and how you interact with your lurkers and your regulars and also establishing a mod team. And then finally finishing up by talking about the importance of setting a good, positive attitude and how that will impact your viewers and while they watch your stream. First off, I want to thank you for listening tonight. If you know anybody who might benefit from these, tips and guides for new broadcasters, then share it around to them. Consider subscribing for more weekly podcasts here on the channel. And also, I do a daily live stream every single morning at 8:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time and Sundays at noon, as well as uploading daily videos to the YouTube channel surrounding games like Escape from Tarkov and DayZ Standalone, as well as other up-and-coming survival shooters. Thanks again for listening to the podcast, and I'll see you guys next time.